a couple of scout troops here, and and not to include our other wonderful general public, we're glad to have you here too. So we will start by having an invocation by Councilman Jeff Turek, and I've asked Zach Babcock, is that right? Zach Babcock, if he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our dear, kind, gracious Father in heaven, as we humbly bow our heads and come before thee at the beginning of this city council meeting, we do so, Father, with much gratitude and thanks in our hearts for those many blessings thou bestows upon us. We're especially grateful and thankful for this great land that we live in and for the opportunities and blessings that are ours and the freedoms that we enjoy in this land, Father. We're grateful for this community that we're able to be a part of and those great citizens that we're able to mingle with and rub shoulders with. We're grateful for those men and women that are serving to protect our freedoms of our country and of our community, and we pray for them and for their families this time, that they might be watched over and protected and that their families would be blessed for their service. Father, now we ask for thy guidance and direction to be with us as we discuss and take care of the matters of business of our community, that we would be directed and guided in making those decisions that would be most beneficial for those citizens and residents in which we serve. We ask thee that thou would continue to bless our community with those special blessings that thou knowest that we seek and desire and need. And we do this in the name of thy Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Appreciate that. Thank you, Councilman Turek. Okay, before we approve the agenda, I'd like to, we're going to eliminate item 11, Historical Preservation Commission. I'm not prepared at this point to recommend some names. I had some names, but a couple of them said they have other commitments. So be patient with me, gentlemen. We'll get that going.
And with that, Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve the agenda minus item 11A.
Second.
There's a motion and a second.
Councilman Turek, aye.
Sigmiller, aye.
Hudson, aye.
Staley, aye. Truman, aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Item 2, announcements. Any announcements to be brought before this body out here and the television world?
Not today.
We want to announce Cotton Days, or are we not close enough yet?
I don't think that you can ever not be close enough to announce it.
April 27th is Day in the Park. That's when everything will happen down at the park, April 27th for Cotton Days. And then there'll be stuff the week after, going on all week around town. So look for an agenda of stuff coming out in the newsletter, I'm assuming. So.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Councilman Hudson. Any other items? Okay, we'll move on to item 3, declaration of abstentions and conflicts. Any of those to declare tonight, gentlemen?
Nope.
Okay. Item 4, our consent agenda to approve the minutes of our city council meetings 3/12/13, 3/13/13, and our board audit report, a consideration to approve the board audit report.
We didn't.
There's no audit report? Okay, we'll scratch that.
Again, those are actually coming to you the first meeting of the month.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve our minutes from the city council meetings of March 12, 2013 and March 13, 2013.
I'll second.
Motion and a second.
Truman, aye.
Staley, aye.
Hudson, aye.
Sigmiller, aye.
Turek, aye.
Thank you. Those are approved. Item 5, a plat amendment. Consideration to approve an amendment to the final plat for Wilbur Acres located approximately 960 South, 1900 East. Applicant Kim Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, is a request to amend the Wilbur Acres plat for the second time. They did one a couple of years back, and the reason for this this change at this time is to eliminate, they had limited common area as part of this subdivision. They wanted to eliminate that and just go straight common area, which is the parking and all the wide area on the plat. Then the rest of it's turned over to just private ownership straight out for this subdivision. It just helps clean up a lot of who could use what type of areas out there. And so they just wanted to clear all that up and get this amendment done. Staff has reviewed the requested amendment, recommended approval of the Wilbur Acres subdivision to the Planning Commission. They reviewed the request on their March 6th meeting, and the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the amended final plat for Wilbur Acres subdivision to the City Council based on the findings and subject to the conditions which are standards for final plats. And I'll be glad to answer any questions the council might have.
These individual homes that are sitting on,
This is actually an industrial subdivision, believe it or not. So it's, this is out, Big City Insulations in this one. It's out on 1900 East there. So it's an industrial subdivision, this particular
Okay.
plat.
So basically, the limited common property is just divided back up into the platted lots? Is that how that works?
Well, it's just been turned over, yeah, to individual lots in this particular case. So they know when they buy that, this lot is their ownership for that particular slashed area on those lots 1 through, I think it's 8, if I remember right. Now, the 2 in the middle will not be built on for a while. We'll
Lot
just
6
make note of
and
those.
7.
Lots 6 and 7 is actually a septic tank. It's a common septic tank leach field area right now until the sewer goes in out there. This particular 2 lots will remain not being able to build upon. We just don't allow that for some reason, putting buildings over septic tanks and leach fields.
Any items for discussion?
If there's no other discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve the amendment for the final plat for Wilbur Acres, located at approximately 960 South, 1900 East.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second.
Councilman Turek, aye.
Segmiller, aye.
Hudson, aye.
Staley, aye?
Truman, aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That plat will be approved for amendment. Item 6, preliminary plat. Consideration to approve the preliminary plat for Westlands at Stuckey Farms located approximately 4800 South Washington Fields Road. Applicant Carl Larson.
Thank you again, Mayor. As stated, application for the preliminary plat, Westlands at Stuckey Farms. Just to give you an idea, if you know where the Meadows is, it's out there. It's some of the most southern houses in the city, which is this area out here. There's been a couple of parade of homes the last couple of years in that area. Recently, we just amended a preliminary plat. This is one that's going to have that park area. So this is southwest of that, across the street, the Washington Fields Road there. This particular subdivision is proposing 92 lots, an area that covers 35 3/4 acres. This particular subdivision is part of the the PCD, the Planned Community Development, known as Stuckey Farms. The proposed subdivision conforms to the approved development agreement as per the PCD zoning. The Westlands at Stuckey Farms is part of what's known as Village 5. They broke up the PCD into villages, and this is the number 5 coming in. And was designated at its original approval to carry a density of 3 to 4.5 dwelling units per acre. This proposed project, the density is going to be right at 2.6, so it's well within and even under the density in this area. The request meets the approved PCD zoning and other city ordinances as it relates to this location. Staff's reviewed the request and recommends approval of the preliminary plat as outlined. The Planning Commission also reviewed the request at their March 6th meeting, and they unanimously recommended approval for the preliminary plat for the Westlands at Stuckey Farms based on the findings and subject to the conditions, which are standard. Now, there was just one note I will make. Number 11 is a little bit different if you read them. Because of our access management plan, this particular exit here and this one here will have to be right in and right out only at this time due to the closeness to the intersection. and because of the size of the roads. So the medians will be poured across that area, and they'll be right in, right out. Now, the developer has told us they may come back and ask for an amendment on this road to be smaller than what it is. Still able to meet all of our criteria in there, but until that happens, the request on number 11 stands for those two entrances and exits up there, that they will be right in and right out only, and the medians will be drawn across that area.
So if they want to go left, what do they have to do? Where do they come in or out to do that?
They're going to have to turn left off, you mean off of Washington, or
Yeah.
oh, I see, on this road?
Yeah, if you
They can enter down here off of that road and just go through the subdivision. If they're coming left from here, south heading north, they're going to have to make a left, go all the way down to this one again and enter
enter to come back.
at this point. That's when, you know, with the design of the subdivision, that's, and our meeting our access management plan, that's just what, it's really, you know, a few odd cases. Again, the people coming down here on that boulevard area, it's not too bad of a thing to make them turn left at this first entrance. The ones that would be a hardship is one I just talked about, coming off of Washington Fields Road and have to make the left, go all the way down.
and back.
So
And then back
currently,
around.
what are those distances on both of those, and come to the
They're
intersection?
roughly like, I think the one, it's two, it looks like it's 257 from here. This one's probably just under 500 feet.
Okay. And what's the distance it has to be to
What's
make
the
it?
minimum, Mike? 500.
So if that one's over 500, why are we worried about it? So it's 660? So if the requirement's 500, why are we requiring it if it's at 660?
We'll have to ask my Public Works Director.
That'd be great.
You haven't,
Yeah, put him on the spot.
his note that came back.
Without the access management plan in front of me, my memory's not that good, but it doesn't meet our access management. That's why it's a right in, right out.
Okay.
And then on the other, that road there, working with the developer, their master plan calls out the width of that road. They do want to change it, make it a smaller classification of road. We are fine with that. It's the same right-of-way as Washington Fields Road. And there's really no need for that large of a right-of-way, but they do have to amend their master plan for the development to do that. So they will be coming back to actually amend that, and then we'll allow that as a full movement intersection when they take it down to under the 106 foot to, say, an 80.
So are we gonna require them to put the medians in and then turn around and not use them?
No, because they'll probably come in with just the half width
So
road
this
right
half built
now.
out right now, so
And
we
I
won't,
believe
okay.
before they actually develop, they'll
Okay.
probably make those changes in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's no use making them go to that extra expense to turn around and tear it back out again or not use it. Okay,
Yeah,
that
we're
makes
just-
sense.
We're just kind of stuck because it's actually their plan we're making them
Live
design
up to what they put in. I understand that.
So,
Okay.
And Mike, this property,
I do know where it is.
On the mini.
You better get some bigger glasses than that.
Well, it sounds like that's gonna become kind of a moot point anyway. I don't know that it behooves us to belabor the point if it's gonna get changed and,
Well, I just don't want to not make reference to it now, and then they
And
come
have
back
it
and
not
think,
change.
no, maybe we're going to leave this road, this big boulevard.
well, I
and-
think it'll be well understood that you're right. If the road stays where it is, medians right in, right out. If the road if we make that change, obviously the intersection would change with it.
Yeah.
It'll all be based on what ends up being there at that time, so.
It is 660 on unsignalized full movement intersection.
660.
660 is
And
the
what's the
minimum.
distance, Brittany, or Brandy? For what?
480 feet.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Drew, it looks like that goes quite a ways up the hillside there, towards the Hancock's property. Is that a pretty steep grade where those lots will go in, or is it further down to the base of that hill?
It's down on the base, isn't it, Brandon, the whole thing? I don't think any of it really climbs
doesn't.
too high up on that ridge. You know, it's kind of deceiving when you go out right now with the way the road is and that distance, so.
Mm.
I don't think the contours really get, you can kind of see they
Yeah,
pick
you can see the
up.
contours there, that's fairly,
They pick up a
fairly
little bit
flat.
more, you know, where my pin is, it starts climbing up the hill there.
Just as a clarification, where those roads end off to the west, that property to the west it's not part of this plan, is it? No.
Everything down, this line right here
Okay,
is not part of the plan. Everything else on here is.
okay. So,
Yeah, so everything down,
but up there with that, up on the northern part, it looks like they have put a roadway, stubbed a road there so that there will be access to the neighboring property owner if they want to do
Right.
something there.
in case they want to use or tie in.
Okay.
And that's common practice for the city that we, you know, ask people to do is those stub roads to adjoining properties. And I think the land there is still fairly flat in that little area too, so.
Any other questions?
If there's nothing else, I'll make the motion that we approve the preliminary plat for Westlands at Stuckey Farms located at approximately 4800 South Washington Fields Road.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second.
Truman, aye.
Staley, aye.
Hudson, aye.
Segmiller, aye.
Turek, aye.
All right, thank you. That's approved. Item 7, final plat. Consideration to approve the final plat for the Meadows at Stuckey Farms Phase 2, located at approximately 4430 South, 1050 East. Applicant Carl Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, application for the final plat for the Phase 2 at the Meadows at Stuckey Farm. This particular subdivision is proposing 22 lots. The area is 6.17 acres. Again, the zoning of this is part of the Stuckey Farms PCD. This is just a little bit northeast of the subdivision we just looked at on the other side of Washington Fields Road. Just north of that amended area we talked about at the last council meeting on the park, which is where that cul-de-sac, right there, kind of where that area begins that we approved 2 weeks ago. Staff has reviewed the proposed Phase 2. It conforms to the approved amended preliminary plat. The Planning Commission reviewed the request at their March 20th meeting, and the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the final plat for the Meadows at Stuckey Farms Phase 2 to the City Council based on the findings and subject to the conditions, which are the normal for final plats. So I'm glad to answer any questions council might have on this proposal.
The cul-de-sac, if I remember right, when I was in the Planning Commission meeting when they spoke about the park, part of the concern was the cul-de-sac, there wouldn't be any access to a parking lot off of that cul-de-sac when people came in. Is this the final look as how they want to have access off this road into that park? That's how we want to do it, is with
At
the
the
cul-de-sac and then the parking lot over off the other side.
And keep in mind, you know, the roads will be dedicated to the city, and at
Right.
one point, the park will be dedicated to the city. So if we want to change that design, you know, we'll probably be able to do it at the design of the park, you know, at that point, in case we want to, you know, what I really love to see is it be tied here and have
Yeah,
parking go all the way over to the
That's what
other
I'm thinking
road.
is we'd like to have it tied together.
And that can all
So,
be part of that design of the park when that comes in,
okay.
so.
Well, I know I've seen a bunch of homes built out there. It's exciting that there's some things going on out there and they're needing a few more lots, so that's good.
Yeah, I was confused. I think I told the councilor it was maybe 12 or 15, and I went out there this in between the last couple of weeks, and I think there's actually closer to 20 or 22. With a
Yeah,
few
nice.
starts coming here in the next week or so with that area, so it's moving right along. Nice little subdivision.
What do you know about the future use of that BLM portion that's to the rear of lots 15 and 19?
Let's see, I'll get out my crystal ball.
I mean,
Generally, BLM, nothing's gonna happen on it unless they decide to trade it with Sitla. That's about all we can imagine, that, you know, it may get used as if Sitla and BLM have a swap of land. That's about the only way, or they can work something with the city.
What's the
Sometimes
distance?
they'll auction.
What's the
Yeah, sometimes
distance?
they will auction it.
How far away is the Southern Parkway gonna be from that boundary?
At that particular point,
It's quite a ways.
it's quite a ways, because it begins,
It starts
you
to-
have down at the
starts
Warner
to
Valley,
turn
and then it starts to veer off to the east as it leaves that area.
that valley.
But it won't be too, you know, it could be a quarter of a mile, half a mile. It'll probably be a good usable piece of land. But it's hard to tell what's gonna happen with it, so. And generally what happens, if it gets to be a good piece and it's a popular area, Sitla goes and looks at it and say, hey, let's do a swap of land, and then they'll do something with it, is what I've seen more often than not.
I know when we looked at the preliminary plat for part of this subdivision, Councilman Sigler had brought up the common area that fronts a prior phase to this, and how that would tie in with this particular park. Has there been any discussion as far as where the park that would be deeded over to the city would end, and where the common area for the subdivision, how those lines would be drawn?
Oh, you mean over on that far end, there was just that open space area for their,
Yeah, that west
Right,
side.
because that would tie into this, you know, it'd flow right into this park, and so it'd be, I just didn't know if there'd been any more discussion on that, or if that's something that you would want to address further down.
I
down the road.
probably would like to address it at the time when that park's being designed. We can take our, you know, who they hire to design that park, and just have them kind of blend those two together. More than likely, it should be the same person, whoever the engineers or, you know, the owner, Mr. Larson ends up hiring to design that park, or if he has the city, you know, put in their 2 cents, and maybe we can at that design time tie those two together.
Yeah, I remember the discussion was just that it didn't seem like it would make sense to have a grassy, open, common area that would tie directly into a park area that the city owned and that had, you know, more public access. So I just didn't know if there had been any discussion on how to work through that.
Probably not at this point till we get into the design stage of that park.
You know,
So-
Drew, it might be a benefit, and Council Starkey and I are just talking about this. We have this development agreement with the exhibits on how they intended to kind of lay that out. I'm not sure even that's all still relevant, all those. I mean, I'm assuming it is, but it might be a good idea in an upcoming work session to kind of bring that back to the council. Maybe also, when we've talked about this, is having a visit with Stuckey Farms, Carl Larson and that, and seeing where we're at on that development agreement, that design.
Yeah,
And maybe maybe Brandy knows that if this is
Flip it the
still
other way.
the layout.
Turn it.
This even answers some of your questions. Who asked the question about the Southern Parkway?
I did.
So this is what they showed earlier. Zoom that in. I don't know if you can see that reads that stuff right there, but that was the stuff out to the Southern Parkway out there. So that's actually says Southern Parkway. So, and I forget where were the park areas that we were talking about the other day.
Well, they just brought in one up here.
Council Staley, this might answer one of your questions. That's in relation to where this Village 5 is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they showed, you know, years ago, when they kind of had that conceptual plan. But that's where they brought that. That's where you discussed the parks yesterday. So they said that's helpful, but that's, I think, why we got to bring this back, and I'll kind of go over this, because it's been a long time since this went through, and not a lot happened since then.
Well, yeah, it might be a benefit, Drew, if we maybe just even send out to the council the development agreement with its attachments, and that might, as we see more development, that might answer some of the questions that they have with respect to that.
Yeah, that would help to have a little bit broader view of this PCD. Sometimes we see it in such a narrow scope that
Piece
we
by
may have
piece.
questions that are already being addressed in that master development agreement, so.
Well, and for all of us, because like Council Starkey said, it's kind of sat there for a long time, and now it's kind of, and for all of us to review it, I think would be good.
And the other thing is, that it's a different engineer that originally had it versus who has it now, and now that they're actually building it, they found they had drainage problems, and they've got to, you know, make adjustments for those, and, but in looking in development agreement, I, you know, looked, and it basically talked about X amount of acres In fact, what did we come up with, Raj? 191
Well, there's
acres?
191 total acres that
That'll
goes to
be
open space and
all
other
open
things, but
space.
then it's broken down by specific acreage to parks, fire station, et
Stations,
cetera, et
et
cetera.
cetera.
Ball fields.
Ball
Ball
fields.
fields.
Wasn't ball fields for the guys were talking about the last.
Yeah, water parks, not as in, just saying water area features as part of their lakes. And as they are, again, we talked about retaining all their water on this project.
Right.
So they need places to put it and make it flow and tie together, so.
No, I think it's great to see it get a little traction, starting to take flight a little bit.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the final plat for the Meadows at Stuckey Farms Phase 2, located at approximately 4430 South, 1050 East.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second.
Truman, I.
Staley, aye.
Hudson, aye.
Sig Miller, aye.
Turek, aye.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, that's approved. Item 8, public hearing and related ordinance. Thank you, gentlemen and scouts, for coming. Public hearing for consideration to approve a general plan amendment, request G-13-01 to change zoning designation from MD, medium density, to CCOM, community commercial, for property located at approximately 850 East, 100 South. Applicant Kendall Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. These don't happen too often, but we have two of them before us tonight, amendments to the general plan land use. This particular first one, which is G-13-01, is requesting a change from the medium density to the CCOM, or the community commercial, in the general plan. This is a piece that the Turners just recently purchased from the Nisons. On that piece behind, we're familiar with their storage facility south of the turf farm. And this 7-acre piece is the one that's being brought before us. The purpose behind it is the Turners want to be able to expand their open storage area for the RVs and the boats, etc. That's the reason why they purchased this. But be able to do it, told them they had to get a general plan amendment, and then if this passes, they'll come back and then have to do zone change on the particular piece. But this is the first step in that process. Sorry you didn't have the color maps. I was able to finally get Dale to get these. I showed you an exhibit of the piece in question. This is just blown up a little easier to see with that. The Planning Commission reviewed this particular request and recommended approval unanimously to the City Council for the general plan amendment of G-13-01. And really not too much. It's pretty straightforward. You can kind of see just by what the zoning, the medium density kind of surrounds the particular property with that, and this red slash piece used to be that medium density carried through. So be more than glad to answer any questions the council might have.
Just so everyone does know, I was at the planning commission when this was discussed, and most of the neighbors were in favor of it. They liked the idea of it being utilized for a storage area rather than just being full of weeds and just going to,
Or the future of apartments or townhomes.
or the future of apartments or townhomes. So they were, the neighbors to the east there were in favor of it, so.
Drew, can you point out again which neighborhood, what neighborhood we're talking about and where it is? So the hatched one, who is that?
That's the parcel we're looking at.
Oh, I took it. That's where I got that pen. Here. I thought I was thinking, where did I get this pen?
Now, what was your question?
So what neighborhood is that that's in the?
This one is
Makes sense to this map, and it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Isn't that Winter Haven?
Winter Haven.
Okay.
Yeah.
So many different reasons.
And where's the current storage, storage at? The open storage?
Well, right here, the open storage is right in this area.
Right.
There's another business that's right here. It's a long, narrow
Right.
storage units.
Yeah.
And then the open area here, and if you look on the map I gave you, they showed some of the buildings
Right.
that are on this far end, and the rest of it's all open storage over
Right.
here.
So the hatched areas, so that's gonna be a ways off of Telegraph.
Yeah, it'll be back off
Right,
Telegraph a little
In
ways.
terms of viewing it from Telegraph.
See if we can get maybe some glare off of that. That gives you an idea. The area that they're talking
Okay,
about
okay.
bringing in is right here. Just following my pen. And then you can see where this is all the open storage
And if you go out there right now, they have removed all the weeds and everything off there already.
And I think they even put up a new fence because they did purchase it wanting to get it fenced off, so.
So in other words, they're not extending the open storage, it's actually just going
Deeper.
back to the hill,
Towards
so it's
the
not
hill.
really gonna make much of a
Yeah,
difference.
they're gonna want to expand the open storage area.
And for the record, that's my pen.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. So it wouldn't probably see any difference from
Right.
the
Yeah,
roadway,
I
from
think it's
Telegraph.
something what the public might wanna know too.
Yeah, so really, if you drive by and look down those aisles, you really won't notice much
Yeah.
of a change.
No.
You know, it's already there, you just by driving by at the 65 miles, I mean, the 45 miles an hour. that we go. I just say that because I've followed a few people going that fast.
Your wife?
Yeah, yeah. So are there any other questions?
Any questions? This is a public hearing. Any of you in the audience would like to make a comment or have any questions or concerns are welcome to come up.
Mayor, seeing no one coming forward, I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Okay, there's a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Segmiller, aye.
Hudson, aye.
Staley, aye.
Truman, aye.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Okay, item B, consideration to approve an ordinance adopting the general plan amendment request G-1301 to change zoning designation from MD to CCOM.
Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve an ordinance adopting the general plan amendment request G-13-01 to change the zoning designation from MD on this particular parcel to CCOM, Community Commercial.
I'll second.
Motion and a second.
Truman, aye.
Staley, aye.
Hudson, aye.
Segmiller, aye.
Turek, aye.
Thank you, that's approved. Good luck, Kendall. Yeah, okay, we'll see you in a month. Okay, item C, a public hearing for consideration to approve a general plan amendment request G-1302 to change zoning designation from VLD, very low density, to LD, low density, for a property located approximately 3650 South, 1100 East, applicant Walt Plum.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is the area that's kind of hashed out in this particular area. Just stating this is a proposed amendment for the general land use map. The request is an area that covers 28.04 acres. The current land use designation is the very low density residential. The applicant, as stated, is requesting to have it match up with the property they also own, which is actually all one piece. It just so happened that there was a general plan line that's separated through the parcel. So they just want to make it all one piece at this time to come in for a future zone change and do some development on this. And it's roughly about a 56-acre parcel in total. So it's almost a little over half, or less than half, that they want to have amended at this time. As you can see, there's very low density to the east and to the north and to the south of this piece, with the low density directly to the west. And again, they're just this hashed out area is the piece in question. The Planning Commission reviewed this request at their March 6th meeting. They unanimously recommended approval of G-13-02 to amend the general plan use map from the very low density to low density. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
A low density designation is what particular designation? How many units
It's
per?
residential.
How many residential units per acre?
Let me just bring that up. I'll put it on the screen so everybody can follow along.
Detention basin.
Here we have the very low density, which is
Behind
what it is
Cougar
right now.
Academy.
The ratio is 1.5 to 2.5 dwelling units per acre. They're wishing to go to the next category, the low density, which carries a 3 to 4.5. So, yeah, basically what you want to look at is doubling the density, but the densities are fairly low in this case. So again, the max would be 4.5 dwelling units per acre. Again, the associated zones that usually come in with that. Let me zoom in on that. Those particular areas. So it's basically going to the R110, R112, and R18 zones in that particular zone designation. I mean, that general plan designation. So
The property to the east, is that where that retention dike is, or is that?
yes, it is.
So there'll be no real, just open space, I guess, it looks like, and
Right. There's a little bit here, but there's not much land out there. But this particular area has been set apart for, what do they call it again, Mike? That pond area that never gets any water in it we've talked about? Is it just a basin? It's a debris basin. Yeah, but it's a detention debris basin. Oh, the pond piece? This? This area? Okay, this is a little bit north of where we were just talking, though, I think, but they own all that sliver down there, so.
Makes sense.
so you're going from roughly two, on very low density, you're having 1 to 2 homes per acre, and now we're going from 3 to 4.5
Roughly,
per,
yes.
per acre.
And the only reason I didn't have, just, as we bring this up, you can see this is an area we've kind of designated as commercial, medium high density, all around that 3650 East interchange with Washington Fields Road, that,
We
that
do have,
particular
we
area.
do have a lot of very low density properties in other areas in the fields as well, so there are some estate properties.
And as you look at your zoning, you kind of feather from your commercial and your heavy, and then you head up, and this is still, the medium density even carries higher density. I'd be more concerned if they were asking, for that particular request, so.
And this particular piece is straight zoning. We're not in a bonus density program, so so technically they could come in and ask for R18 lots, 8,000 square foot lots along that entire piece. What's the entire piece there with the low density and the very low density? How big is that entire?
The whole piece is
56.
should be 56. I don't think I had that here, but it's 56 point something acres.
So they could come in and ask for 8,000 square foot lots on 56
And
acres?
as long as the density met the three,
That's a lot of homes.
it is a lot of homes.
This is a public hearing. Anybody out there want to talk about it? Or not?
Seeing no one, Mayor, I'll
Okay.
move that we close the public hearing.
Okay, there's a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
There's a motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Sig Miller, aye.
Hudson, aye.
Staley, aye.
Truman, aye.
All right, thank you. Item D, consideration to approve an ordinance adopting general plan amendment request G-1302 to change zoning designation from VLD to LD.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve an ordinance adopting the general plan amendment request G-13-02 to change the zoning designation on this piece of property from very low density to low density.
I'll second.
Motion and a second.
Truman, aye.
Staley, nay.
Hudson, aye.
Sig Miller, aye.
Turek, nay.
Okay, that passes 3-2, 2 nays. Item 9, resolution. Consideration to approve a resolution supporting the implementation of the Transfer of Public Lands Act, HB 148.
Were you gonna take that? Was Larry gonna take that?
Are you going to take that, Larry?
Alan?
Or Alan? Sorry, Alan.
That's what I asked for Larry most of the time. Speaking, is he still alive and well and not froze to death up there in the northern tundra?
He's
Oh,
back.
He's back
Oh,
home.
is he?
Yeah.
Well, see, shows you how I've been keeping up on things.
Yeah, we got him back home and bucked off in the first 2 weeks, and so he's recovered from that and doing good.
All's well then.
Yeah, HB 148 is a bill that was passed a year ago by the state legislature that calls on the federal government to transfer the federal lands to the state. And this is consistent with everything that's happened in all the states east of Colorado.
And so we're merely saying that, you know, it's time that they fulfill that agreement to the western states as well. Utah just passed another bill in this last session, a follow-up of 148. This one will do a study as to all the economics and to lay out a plan as to how things would be managed. It's not intended that this land would be sold. There may be little pieces of it here and there, but the intent of the bill would be to transfer the land to the state for management so we could take advantage of our natural resources and use them, where now they're all being tied up by the management of the feds and by lawsuits by environmental groups. As you see, we see our forests burn with huge fires now that we didn't used to have, strictly because the growth and the vegetation is so thick, and they're just not being managed as they need to be. And they're in the process right now of removing about 75% of the oil shale land in Utah from development potential. And you know, those natural resources that we have in our state could make a huge difference. The royalties off of those make a huge difference to our educational system throughout the state. We don't have a ton of resources in Washington County, unfortunately, other than our beauty, but those resources would go to the state and be shared with schools throughout. So, you know, that's an important thing besides the economy, besides the economic benefit they can bring to the nation and the ability to be energy independent. There's been 7 states this year. We've gone out and recruited, educated other states. 7 states have bills of various types in front of them or passed this year, and others are still, their legislatures are still in session. So it's a movement that's spreading, and there's getting a lot of interest. And if we're going to ever make this happen, now is the time to do that. Enterprise, Ivins, Santa Clara, St. George, Hurricane, and La Vercan, as well as Washington County, have all passed this resolution, and so we just invite you to join with them. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to.
What obviously, with the way the federal government takes things and holds on to things, and they have unlimited power, it seems, notwithstanding the Constitution, what's the likelihood of anything ever really happening in getting the lands back? Anybody look at that realistically? I can't see the federal government just saying, here's a deed to 70% of the property we own in Utah, take it and manage it. So is it just going to be embroiled litigation for years over whether we have it or don't have it?
Well, our
Did they already bring, Commissioner, hasn't our suit already been initiated? I thought they started a suit a year or 2 ago.
No, they put a deadline. They asked the federal government to turn this over by the end of 2014.
Okay.
Other states are all, it's, as we get a movement and a bunch of states involved, why I think our chances improve greatly. See, in 1832, the western states got together and says, hey, we were supposed to turn this land over to us, and it didn't happen. And so finally they got together as a group, and that was Illinois and Indiana and Mississippi and Florida and all of those states. They went through this same process.
This was in the 1800s?
This was in the 1800s, yeah. See, everything as the country moved west, why a lot of those original 13 states had property in the backside of the Appalachians, and they ceded that to the federal government because the other states were concerned about the size, and so that was broken up into smaller states and then privatized, and that's how our country's grown. Well, when they got to the Rocky Mountains, why that didn't proceed as they moved forward. So it's really been a detriment to our economy and to the use that we can make of natural resources, besides the beauty of our forests that we're just burning up, as well as all of the wildlife that gets cooked when that fire happens.
I do agree with the resolution. That you brought up, one of the concerns that I had was how those would be managed once they were returned to states, because one of the concerns that I had is the states then start to sell them off and they become privatized as most of the eastern states have become, and then we lose those of us of the public lose
Yeah.
the rights to those lands, and that was a concern that I had.
It's been public lands too long where we're used to being able to use them, and so
Correct,
that's
yeah.
the
We kind of lay
content.
claim to those now, and that was my concern is, if the state gets them, are they gonna manage them as a state, or do they say, oh, here's how we're gonna drive those revenues, is to sell those and become privatized?
Yeah, no.
And then as a public, we lose those.
If they're sold, 95% of the money goes to the federal government, and that's
That's
in
the
our
point
enabling act. So there's no really point to the state to do
selling them.
that.
Well, I do agree with that our natural resources are a big, important thing for us to open up, and like you say, the royalties that can be generated are huge.
Yeah, it's anticipated that the current use that's out there would be maintained, the hunting, the fishing, all the public uses that way, as well as grazing, mining, whatever is.
Just go under state control and kind of manage that
Be
way.
managed by
Okay.
the state, where we'd have more of an input as a local community to say
How
what
they're
goes
gonna
on
be
in
managed.
our area.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I'm somewhat suspect of whether it's going to come to fruition. Maybe it's a springboard for succession from the union, you know, if they don't give us our land back.
Yeah, well, you
Everything
know,
aside, and
I'd invite you to go on the American Lands Council website. There's a white paper there by a big law outfit, and I can't remember the name, but they go through and outline that they've offered to come help with that lawsuit, so that there's
Support
Hawaii went on a 9-0 decision by the Supreme Court that gave them some of their rights, and that was in 2009. So on a similar deal. So I think there's a potential. If we don't do it now, it's never
going
going
to be behind.
And so the resolution that we would be adopting tonight basically gives credence to this grassroots effort, saying
Yes.
our local communities, our cities, our counties, we support the control
Support the idea,
of this
yeah.
land being given back to the states.
Yeah,
Which I think is a good fight
Yeah.
to fight, win or lose.
yeah, I agree.
Commissioner Wood, you mentioned that the state legislature had approved some type of an economic evaluation? Is that kind of based on if the state has the land, what is it going to mean in terms of how much is it going to cost to manage it versus
Yeah, it'll look at
how
all
are we
of
going
those.
to pay for that if it comes in the state lands?
Yeah,
I think
it'll-
that's a question I think that's still out there.
Yeah, that's out, and the
Is
bill.
that part of that? Part
This
of what they wanted to
148
do?
bill called for this committee to be set up and this study to be done, and so this is the second step. Nevada, several states this year on their resolutions or their bills that they're putting through, they're calling for the committee and putting the committee in place first and doing their study before. So it's just, kind of reversal of the way Utah has done it. But
And is that what the committee's going to do, is kind of evaluate
Yeah.
kind of the cost benefit
right,
if it comes back to the state's land, so
Yeah.
that we're not just saying, well, we want the land, but don't recognize later that it may have cost us more than we thought it would, so
yeah.
we'll have information going into it. Okay.
Has the Attorney General's office, you may have answered this, I don't remember, the Attorney General's office, based upon that Hawaii case, have they looked at what the argument that the Hawaii case made that is going to have some validity here? I'm assuming that the federal government will function under the supremacy clause when they argue this point, but I was wondering, do we know what the argument that would be articulated by the,
I don't remember all of the particulars. It was to do with turning the lands back over to the state or to the Hawaiian people.
Yeah, I think some of that
certainly
had
that's
to-
hopeful if it
Yeah.
went that direction with Hawaii.
Yeah.
I haven't read it, but some of that, they had the unique issues of being the king on the land before, and there was an issue whether the government
Yeah.
ever probably had a right to take the land from the kings, and so it's, I think, a little different situation, but.
And you
Well-
can find those arguments, I think there's some outlines, I think when this first came up a couple of years ago, when they were contemplating, there were some good arguments by, pros and cons from law firms have taken a look at this as they were talking about it, so I think you can find just some evaluations of what the arguments are going to be, and what they're basing those arguments on by going to, probably doing some websites. Maybe that white
Yeah,
paper
he's
is
got,
helpful.
there it is, good. Just for example, North Dakota came in I think 5 years ahead of Utah. They're with the same enabling act, the same constitution for their state. They're got about 4 or 5% private land, and look at their economy and what's happening up there. That's why they're able to drill and go ahead. Utah, we can't hardly do
Yeah.
anything, so.
So we're saying that this would enable us to potentially do that based on
Yeah.
how the elected officials decide, but we may be giving up some of the benefit that the federal government tries to pass
Right.
along to us in the meantime. I still think that this is a good resolution to support.
I have a question, Commissioner, and probably for Council Starkey as well. Toward the bottom of the document, the first resolution that comes after the now therefore, and it says, resolve that Washington County wholeheartedly supports. Is that supposed to indicate Washington City Council?
Yes, that should say Washington City.
Okay.
That, we sent a resolution, a sample one, so that should be.
So I would, that's my question.
Any other discussion?
If there's not, I'll make a motion that we approve a resolution supporting the implementation of the Transfer of Public Lands Act, HB 148.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second.
Truman, I.
Staley, aye.
Hudson, aye.
Segmiller, aye.
Turek, aye.
Okay, that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alan, it's good to see you. Okay, we eliminated, oh, never mind. Item 10. I was getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, boy, you better have a shot getting up and leaving there.
Sorry, Mike. Bid award, consideration to award the bid for the 2013 slurry seal project. Say that 5 times in a row. Mike Shaw.
I apologize for not being able to get this to council earlier. We had an error in our advertising, so we couldn't actually open bids until this afternoon. So Denise did drop it into the Dropbox this evening, so you should have it in there. We actually, on our slurry project, we had very good response. We actually had 8 plan holders on the project. We did have 5 bidders on the project. Our low bid on this project came in from American Paving at $442,337.92. American Paving's an excellent contractor. We've used them, I think, 3 previous years. Last year was Intermountain Slurry that had done the project. Their bid prices, they actually talking with their sales rep after our bid opening. He's really amazed at the low oil prices right now, and it's 85 cents. It's actually 84.5 cents a square foot.
I was going to ask you about that because there's two bids on here where that type 2 is under, you know, about 85 cents approximately, but then there's 3 that are closer to 105.
Mm-hmm.
Why such a huge disparity?
I don't know.
Was were they bidding the same thing? They all understood exactly. They wanted a type 2. Are we looking at a inferior product compared to what these others are?
No, it's spec'd out in our specs that we supplied with the project. They bid the exact same type of product.
Okay.
I'm not sure why the other ones were higher.
Because other than that, they're all pretty close.
They are.
And so it's.
Well, you know, on our striping, the traffic control, those are usually bid by local contractors, so they'll give pretty much the same pricing to everybody.
Right.
The 85 cents a square yard, I've never seen that low of a price. We've been doing this, I believe, 10 years now, slurry projects, and we've never had a price come in that low.
What do you generally see it at?
The lowest we've ever seen that I remember is 93 cents.
What did we? What was our estimate of what we thought
Our
it was going to be?
estimate on this that we used from last year's numbers was $571,588.
Okay.
And I believe last year we were at $1.15.
I was gonna say, you were a little over $1 last year, I remember that.
And we're not doing any type 1, right? It's all,
No type 1.
It's all type
This is
2.
all type 2.
And the contractor we used last year was who?
Last year's was Intermountain Slurry.
Okay.
Intermountain Slurry has done a lot of other previous projects for us before. They, in the past, have done a great job. This last year, there was some issues. The new crew coming in,
Yeah.
issues with the oil because it turned off
Timing.
extremely hot for us and they weren't prepared for that heat. The oil they brought in was for colder temperatures as well as doing the type 1.
There's no other question on it. I'll motion that we award the bid for the 2013 slurry slope project to American Pavement.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second.
You want to put an amount in there?
Yes, thank you. It looks like the total bid amount is $442,337.92.
Second.
There's a motion and a second.
Truman, I.
Staley, aye.
Hudson, aye.
Sig Miller, aye.
Turek, aye.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Now, along with this, we might do a little bit of extensions on this where it
Yeah,
is such a
see, he
good
said, you know,
price.
he said that right after. Thanks,
So
Shaw.
It won't be major
We
extensions,
budgeted, we
but
budgeted more, so.
we were looking, I estimated we would spend around the 571,000, so if we don't spend it, it will roll over to next year's budget to maybe help with Telegraph as well.
That'd be really nice. Help us that way.
after last night's discussion.
Yes, that is. When do you anticipate them starting?
They actually will be 30 days after this. I talked with them.
30 days from today?
Yeah, we'll give them the notice of award tomorrow.
Okay.
And they said they will need 30 days to get all their bonding in order and to actually mobilize and finish up some of their existing projects.
Okay.
But we also have a very tight time frame for them to complete the project. I believe it's 30 days to complete the project.
So as they're doing that, who is it that we use to make sure that they're using the proper product, the testing? Is that,
In the past, we've always used Landmark, and
okay,
so it'll either be Landmark or AG's.
but they'll be keeping up on that?
Well, yes, we will
Okay.
be testing the product.
Because like I said, it worries me to see that big of a disparity between that. So I'd just like to make sure that we're using the right
I'm
thing.
not concerned with American. They've been a very good contractor for us in the past.
Great.
They're out of Las Vegas. They have a shorter area to bring oil from.
Okay.
It's probably a little bit of it, as their transportation costs are probably less than northern Utah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Consider, item B, consideration to award the bid for the Fairway Drive wastewater replacement project, Mike Shaw, 2013, Mike Shaw.
This is a project that was not included in our budget. Sometimes we run into these issues to where it's not a budgeted item, but it's something we have to take care of. It's a relatively small project. We actually bid this project out. Actually, we quoted it out. And our low price came from Desert Hills Contractors at $88,334. This is a line that was laid flat in an area and a reverse grade in the area. With the growth that we've had in the Green Springs area, it's created a real big problem with smell in the area. Lots of residents complaining about it. So we actually need to go in and relay the line and catch grade back on the line again.
Because of the way it's settled, it's just sitting a little bit.
Yeah, when the line was originally laid, it was laid very flat, and with phasing coming on with the Green Spring development, one of the phases actually, they did a reverse grade on us, so we're not getting the flow, so the sewage is,
Backing up.
yeah, it's going anaerobic in the line, and which creates a lot of smells. And
It's aging.
it's aging.
It's just cooking.
And there's the two church houses right there on Fairway Drive, and we get a lot of complaints on that on Sundays where people are parking out on the road
This
and
is
walking.
gonna include tearing up the road then, isn't it?
It will.
Should improve church attendance, however.
It should.
Some people are gonna miss their preferred excuse. I've been looking for one of those.
This is a 20-day project, and I believe that they are ready to start this on, I believe, the 8th of April.
So if this wasn't budgeted, we're using what funds to pay for this?
Parks.
Perfect.
This is just reserve funds.
Okay.
We run into this, and that's why we have to keep a
We keep a
reserve.
reserve.
Reserve funds available. This is non-impact fee eligible, so it's based on our user fees that we have collected.
Okay.
Have we used this Desert Hills Construction before?
Yes,
They're a local contractor.
they're a local contractor, very qualified contractor to do it. Every one of the contractors that bid it, when we If we're under $120,000, we don't have to actually do an advertised bid. If we're even close to that mark, we will actually advertise it. We normally will do 3 quotes, but we will always try to do 4 or 5 quotes on this. And so we send it out to the contractors, very good contractors, every one of them. I'd be happy with any of them doing the work. And we actually had, I think, 2 contractors that decided they did not want to bid the project.
If there's no further discussion, I'll make the motion that we approve the bid, or award the bid for the Fairway Drive wastewater replacement project to Desert Hills Construction in the amount of $88,334.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second.
Councilman Turek, aye.
Segmiller, aye.
Hudson, aye.
Staley, aye.
Truman, aye.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, we'll go to item 12, report from assigned committees. Anything to report, Councilman Truman?
Nothing new.
Okay.
Mayor, I might just take a second and run through the agenda for Cotton Days. We are a month out to the day, and I know a lot of people see this, so let me just briefly run through the
Sure, absolutely.
through the activities. So, like Councilman Hudson said, we start April 27th, 7 a.m. with a 5K family fun run. It starts and ends at Veterans Park. The main Cotton Fest activities will be that Saturday, April 27th at Veterans Park. We will have a parade that will start near the community center, coming down 300 and up Telegraph Street. That day will include pioneer games, relay races, a car show, a tractor pull, a family softball tournament, and a movie in the park that evening. So there's some of the activities we've all been used to, and some new activities this year. We've got a great citizens committee that's working together with a lot of the staff at Leisure Services to put it together. Sunday the 28th, there will be a fireside, Images of Faith, on April 29th. That Monday we'll have the Washington City Community Center anniversary party. Tuesday the 30th of April, we have barrel racing at 6 p.m. and an ice cream social at the museum. The barrel racing will be down at Ron Larson's property at Mill Creek Ranch. May 2nd, Councilman Turek will head up the youth fishing derby once again. May 3rd, we'll have a dusk till dawn softball tournament, again down at Mill Creek Ranch. There'll be team sorting, and the youth council will actually sponsor a dance, which I believe will be at or near the old school and basketball court. May 4th, that Saturday morning, the mayor will have the grill fired up, and we'll be doing that Ironman breakfast. A lot of community members come out and we watch.
Not only the mayor, but the council. Okay.
Let the dust
Let's
off
get that straight.
Keep telling myself I need to run that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, just go right.
Get out of the pancake flip and finish
Hey,
running.
that's a lot of fun. That's a good event. We had a lot good. You show good support for that community Ironman, and then the last event for our Cotton Days celebration this year is the Junior Rodeo, which starts at 11 a.m. again down at the Posse grounds. So
And that's on the 4th too?
yes, that's
Okay.
on May 4th. So
Saturday the 4th?
that's correct. So we're starting with the Cotton Days Festival on the first day this year, and the other events are to follow. So it's a little bit different than in the past, but we've kept those traditional events and added to it. So we're looking forward to a great event.
Thanks,
I didn't hear
Chris.
a parade. Is there a Cotton Days parade?
Yeah, it is. The Cotton Days Parade is, again, that April 27th, that
27th.
morning. They've got it listed to start at 9 a.m. And again, that parade route that we've got off 300 East and along Telegraph. So it'll be nice. The Lions Club will be out cooking breakfast there, and car show, and they've done a really good job on a great event. So
Plan on being in the parade, gentlemen.
Hey, just for everyone's knowledge, we did submit, or we have put out the RFP for the swim team program, for the swim program up at the pools for the rentals, and so that the bids close. We have to be accepted by Friday, I think. So hopefully we'll get those back in and see where that goes for things. So.
Good.
The bid's closed, you said, or the bids are out?
The bids are out. It closes Friday.
I see.
This Friday?
We went out
This
last-
Friday.
They went out last week.
Yeah, they went out last week. They have to be back by the Friday. It's pretty cut and dry how many lanes they get. We've tried to simplify the whole process so that the people on the swim program don't have to have memberships up there. They're paying for the membership as part of their rental agreement. And so just trying to make it as simple and painless as we can and still offer great service to our members, so.
You also may report you had a great ducky drop event Monday night. It was awesome.
I wasn't able to go. I was at
Did you
Little
go?
League opening
I
ceremony.
went up for a little while. You had about probably 400 people there.
Yeah.
It was a great event. It's turned into they do a great
Okay.
job up there at the community center.
I did see some pictures, but we haven't had
The youth council were involved in helping and with the community center and whatnot. They pulled it off a great event.
Nothing, Councilman Sigmar?
No floods.
Just flood prevention. Councilman Turek?
I don't have anything to report.
All right, I don't either, so we'll move on to our city council, or city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple items this evening, just a couple of updates. The Planning Commission and staff continue to work on the issue related to vacation rental issue and zone language. They are hard at work at it, trying to make sure that they cover as many of the angles of this issue, and so it is in progress. I just wanted to bring you up to date on that. The Covington home, it is anticipated that we'll have the the irrigation is installed and backfilled now. We are anticipating that some of that cement work we talked about in the back will begin the 16th of April, be completed by the 19th. And the water feature will be complete at that time as well, with the sod going in about April 22nd.
So the whole thing will be.
The Covington home will be open for the tours starting on April 29th through May 4th. And again, we're just dealing with the grounds. This should complete the grounds, and then we'll wait for further direction from the council on the rest, but should be in real good shape for the.
So the tours will be available during Cotton Days?
Correct. The grounds should be really beautiful. They should really be nice. And let's see, what else we got going on?
With the increases in the real estate market, we may be asked to put that baby back on.
So it could be sold,
You think we might get paid telegraph if we did that, huh?
so it could be sold by Cotton Days then.
Market changes, let's just put a sign on it during Cotton Days.
We do have at least one,
Best
not
investment we ever made.
concrete.
You got a couple. Yeah, just one. Oh, I guess just one,
Down.
just the one.
My 6-year-old was really distressed when he found out where he got down.
What's that?
Yeah, I'm not sure we cut actually any of the.
Yeah, the pecan, I don't think it was a pear tree that came out that
What
was,
about the big one, right at they have that driveway you pull in?
there was a cypress tree there that
Oh,
came
it was?
out.
Yeah, and that apple tree or the pear tree was
Pear
kind of
tree,
gross looking.
yeah, it was diseased. I
But we
think.
saved the pecan and the mulberry.
Yep. We're all still eating pecans off that ground.
It's a good tree.
Dropped
It's a real
them
good
4 years ago.
It's probably 80, 100 years old.
Yes. We've talked about the Washington Fields project with the remilling and the repaving. That's anticipated to be striped on the 28th. So, and then basically the project will be complete at that point and be opened up, so.
That's tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're right in the next couple of days of finishing that up.
Good job, Mike.
And we love, I was trying to get a blog article out to explain to the citizens why we put in a new road and tear it up a month later. And of course, the thing we want them to know is if it doesn't meet standards, then we have our contractors have a responsibility to make sure it does. And in this case, that was one of those that we held the contractor to. So that was a positive thing that we had him tear it up and put it back.
First day I noticed those valves weren't visible, so I thought, gee, they were able to move the irrigation valves, but then they came through and tore them up and cemented them, so.
Yeah, we
Still
didn't.
have irrigation valves in the middle of the
Yeah,
road.
we did, and because we didn't take all the lifts off, and so the road didn't go all the way down to the sub, we didn't remove the subgrade and all of that, so it isn't probably the best circumstance, but it's kind of what we got right now. So we have to slow the traffic down there because getting Roy out onto the road and back takes just a little.
I really don't know what we're gonna do. I mean, that road, all I can tell is just gonna get busier.
It is.
Someday there's gonna have to be some form of.
Well, and I think that we're gonna keep our eye on that and address that when we can. Let's see if there's anything else with regards. Mike had talked about the Fairway Drive sewer. A couple of other items just of interest. Well 4, we've had a low water production on that one, so we're replacing the the bowls prior to our peak water usage in that area, and the Grapevine well lost a motor. We've replaced the motor and it's back into service, so I wanted to share that with you. And then I don't think there's any power updates other than I want to share with you a short video. This is, yesterday I had the opportunity to go up, partially because I'm now the chair of this, but you've heard us refer to the waste heat project. And there is a compressor station on the Kern River line out at Vail. So I went up there to see where we would be installing, potentially installing, and this is through UAMPS, both at a compressor station in Fillmore and a compressor station in Vail, a waste heat unit. And I want to show you just a short 2.5-minute video that I think is excellent with regards to what a waste heat unit is. So let me see if I can do this.
I can tell you what one is.
It comes off, it's the heat that comes off the gas line when they recompress it.
Three of them.
That then the heat is used to turn turbines to create electricity.
Just have like music and.
And the spoken word.
Can we turn this up? Okay.
Greatest responsibilities. Chevrolet is investing in projects across America to help reduce CO2 by up to 8 million metric tons over the next few years. We call these projects carbon stories. Our country relies upon natural gas for its heat and electricity. Pipelines bring the gas from wells to towns and cities. To keep it flowing, the gas has to be recompressed. These compressors create heat, which escapes into the atmosphere, except in places like Garvin, Minnesota.
Behind me is a very unique way of generating electricity. It's called recovered energy generation. There's a large natural gas pipeline, a 42-inch line, comes out of Canada on its way down toward Chicago. And every so often, 40 or 50 miles or so along that pipeline, there are compressor stations. To run those compressors, there are big jet engines, about 39,000 horsepower, and the exhaust is about 900 degrees. A company called Ormat Technologies came up with a way to capture the heat to generate electricity.
The first phase of the process is our oil heater. Inside the oil heater are tubes through which industrial oil is circulated. The oil is heated and then circulated through a tank containing a working fluid called pentane. As the pentane expands and crosses a series of turbine blades, the expansion of the pentane, or the working fluid, causes them to turn. There the pentane is converted into working energy.
The generator here is rated at 5.5 megawatts. That's about 4,400 residential homes.
There's about 1,400 compressor stations at more than 300,000 miles of pipelines in the country. So it's really a model for other projects to create community benefit and to create zero emissions electricity.
To produce this electricity, we're not burning anything. It's just a very unique way of doing it. As we say, the rest is history.
Chevrolet is supporting the project over a 5-year period, and every watt we reuse is a step toward a cleaner future. You can join the effort too.
Okay, we don't need to see the Chevrolet commercial.
What do you mean, it's your tax dollars at work?
You ever seen that?
Anyway, it's a pretty neat process. The pentane that they talked about is like it's a fluid that on kind of a molecular scale, you've got your tars at the very bottom, you got your kerosenes at the top. Pentane is a fluid that's about 4 down from the top, so it's like a kerosene. And basically the pentane boils at a very low temperature. And so as the heated oil comes through this tube and duct system, it heats up the pentane, which not only converts it from a liquid to a gas, but also expands it significantly. And as it expands into that gas, it forces its way through the turbines. The turbines then turn, which generate the electricity. And then, of course, the pentane starts to cool down as it goes through with the collector system, returns back to a liquid. and then comes back and returns again.
Is the pipeline out there of a similar capacity?
It is. Pretty large pipeline. They actually have, their compressor stations out there is about 100 miles between that station and the next one, just because of the elevation. Believe it or not, with gas, you get head pressure when you're going downhill on that. And so because of the elevation changes, they head toward into the California area as well. They pick up some head pressure, so they have a compressor station quite a
The one by
ways out.
Kanash?
What's that?
Is that the one by Kanash? Is that, you're talking about that natural gas pipeline?
We have the one we're looking at, yeah, well, it's the Kern River line, for
Okay.
those of you who are familiar with the big Kern River. Kern River is the
Right.
one who owns. So we were looking at one station in Fillmore, as I mentioned, one station here. These have 3 units here in Vale. As they compress the gas, again, what it does is the compressed gas, to speed the gas back up, creates heat. And that heat right now is just blown off into the environment. And like they said, it's between 900 and 1,000 degrees. And so they just capture that heat, convert it into that, through that pentane into.
Does it run 24 hours a day?
Pretty much. And when
so
we were there the
this
other
type
day.
of- This type of project could
Yeah,
be a base load type of project.
It certainly depends on gas load, but the good news is the biggest load that Kern River has on this line is PG&E in California, Pacific Gas and Electric. And they are pretty much residential. One of the questions I ask is, do we have large electrical unit facilities, natural gas unit facilities on this line that for whatever reason would not be running off this line? Because certainly that would have a hit on the demand, and then the demand would slow down this. Pretty much all the units run all the time, but they will ramp them up of the 3 that we need. And so it's got like when we say capacity factor, a capacity factor simply means in the power business that the amount of time you can run, or that you're built to run, which is always 100%, how much do you actually run? This is 95% plus. Just to put that into perspective, Horse Butte is 28 to 30. That's our wind project.
Right.
Usually solar is somewhere around, well, Southern Utah's a little better, but it's usually around low 20% capacity factors, meaning you're only using that much of your facility because of how it works.
Now you're thinking this is a UAMPS project, and Washington City would have any ownership interest, like a
NEBO.
NEBO?
Yeah.
Or at least the option to.
Yeah, so what's happened now is we're in the investigative stage. We have committed some funds to the UAMPS project to investigate this project. Actually, ORMAT is the product, the engineers that well, they're not engineers. They're the developers of this product that we would be using. But we're still in the investigation stage. Part of UAMPS met with the UAMPS. We'd be taking a piece of ground just outside of the current footprint of the compressor station. It is BLM ground. They don't suspect any concerns there, but they met with them today out of the field office here. And so, you know, this is going to be a product that's it's going to take a while for us to develop, but it's a base load product, 95% capacity, very good for us. That's a base load product we like. And probably within a couple years, hopefully by the time we start to see some of the coming to the end of some of our current fixed contract stuff, and of course we are looking at a blend and extend on our fixed contract, but hopefully by that time we'll have some of this product online as well. So
What kind of costs are involved or estimated?
we're looking, I would say that our estimated cost when all is said and done is you're going to be in about the $60 a megawatt area, so just convert that to cents, 60 cents. So that's pretty good for us.
You have an idea of return, so.
Remember, Horse Butte's around 80.
Right, our coal's about 4.5.
Coal's, yeah, depending on transmission, you're around 50 maybe with coal, but coal's going to go up to about 58, 59 because of emissions issues. And so, you know, anything you can get kind of in that $50 to $60 range is really good for us.
Any sort of credits for this type of thing?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, good question. There is some renewable credits, not as strong as like wind and solar, but because the state of Utah does recognize this as a renewable resource. Now remember, the state of Utah sets its own renewable portfolio standards, and they do recognize this. The feds can set their own too. For instance, the feds do not consider hydro a renewable energy source.
Wow.
And I think there's a lot of reasons for that, a lot of pressure from the environmental community. Well, it disrupts our fish and beaches and things. But this is one that does have renewable energy credits. I wouldn't suspect that there would be lots of credit associated with that. And remember, the renewable energy credit market right now is really crazy. It's just, we have renewable energy credits right now that Washington City owns and holds because of Horse Butte, and there's just no market for them. And the reason there's no market is because no established market's been built. So they're all over the place, and they're just kind of, so they'll be fine. Well, I mean, we'll get some credit out of them. We've actually given UAMPS the authority that if the price is right, that they can continue to look to market our renewable energy credits from Horse Butte, and then just notify us if they have a reasonably good deal, and we'll look at it. But we've given them permission to go ahead and do that. But there is some. That's a good question. Anyway, I thought you might find that interesting. I think cartoons always make it easier for me to understand these things.
Yeah, Tom
So
and Jerry.
it's a good little project. And other than that, Mayor, that's, I believe, all I have this evening.
Okay. All right,
I'll make a motion then, Mayor, that we adjourn.
we adjourn. Gentlemen, have a great week. Thank you
Do you
for
wanna have
your
a vote?
time and your service.
You
We
want
need
a
to have a
second on
vote.
that
Yeah,
one?
we need to have a vote in a second.
I'll
Second.
second it then.
Okay, there's a second.
Third it.
Aye.
Daily, aye.
That's an aye.
Segmuller, aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The mayor was excited to get out of here.
Yeah,
He was
I'm-
done.